We'll discuss the question of a Kohen Shaharag, a Kohen who kills. And it's very prevalent today, or more prevalent than before, since we have an Israeli army today, since 1948. It could have happened before as well, because Jews did fight in World War I, World War II, so you do have incidents of Jews killing, in fact, other Jews. But today, since 1948, it's a more prevalent question of someone who comes back from the war.
But they only kill Jews.
And yeah, so let's say killing Arabs.
Oh, okay.
So we'll see if it makes a difference. Yeah, because the Gemara tells us in Brachas, Daf Lamed Beis, that a Kohen Shaharag, a Kohen that kills, he can no longer do Birkas Kohanim. He can no longer do the blessing of the Kohanim. That's what we'll stick to, because that's, since we don't do the Avodah anyway in the Beis HaMikdash.
When you're talking about Birkas Kohanim, what do you mean?
When he goes up and they bless the people.
Well, you don't have to be a Kohen to do that. Maybe you do this, but to say Yevarechecha Hashem, when the people in Friday night, some say Yevarechecha, when they bless their kids, they're not Kohanim.
That's something else, yeah. That's the question, how do we reconcile?
I thought that was only the bracha, but Yahava.
No, it is. Well, that's the question. It's a Gemara in Ksuvas about whether a non-Kohen can do it or not. But we'll assume for our purposes now, we're talking about a Kohen we're talking about the classical Kohen who goes up on Yontif or in Israel every day to do Birkas Kohanim.
Yeah, okay.
So the Gemara says in Brachas that a Kohen can't do Birkas Kohanim. He quotes a pasuk, I think, in Yeshayahu, that those hands are full of blood and God doesn't want a blessing from it. So, and that's the way it's paskin in the Rambam and in the Shulchan Aruch. So the question is, Bizman Hazeh, was an Israeli soldier, could be anyone, but we'll just use an Israeli soldier killing someone in the army, does that disqualify him when he comes back to do Birkas Kohanim? So
probably all these battles in the Torah, the Kohen didn't go.
Well, we'll discuss it. So the Ramosha we'll discuss first. Ramosha Feinstein.
Who's he?
He lived on the Lower East Side of Manhattan off the FDR Drive.
Did anybody trust him?
So he wrote as follows. He says it's obvious to him the answer. Well, to him the many answers may be obvious. It's obvious in which direction. Is it obviously good or no good? So he said it's obvious that it's good, that a Kohen can continue to do Birkas Kohanim after battle. Why? What's his proof? So he quotes from, I think it's the Pri Chadash, the Pri Megadim, from some of the Achronim, that the following case. We know there are three things one has to give up their life for. Not to worship idols, not to murder someone, and not to commit adultery. But save the big three, you have a mitzvah of a chai bahem. That one has to, better to violate Shabbos one time so you can keep many more mitzvahs. So that's the general rule. So let's say a person goes to a Kohen and puts a gun to the Kohen's head and says,
shoot, I
want you to murder someone else or I'm going to kill you. So there's a mitzvah of Kiddush Hashem for the Kohen to give up his life.
Even if the guy's a guy?
That's a separate discussion. But
what a separate discussion.
Exactly. Let's try to keep focused here on the topic at hand. So the point being is, so the Kohen...
Yeah, you said it. Puts the gun to his head and said, you don't kill this guy, I'll kill you. It doesn't mean this guy's Jewish.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that. Let's assume it doesn't make a difference.
Oh, maybe.
Since I didn't point out one or the other, we're assuming it doesn't make a difference.
Very good.
So they point out that he should give up his life. Let's say he doesn't give up his life. Let's say he does kill the other guy.
Murder.
It's murder.
Coerced.
However, but he did it under duress.
Yeah. Okay.
So he doesn't get punished for it.
An onus.
Yeah, it's an onus. So Rav Moshe writes as follows. If a Kohen Shaharag, when he did the wrong thing, he should have sacrificed his life and went out Kiddush Hashem. And nevertheless, the halacha is that he's permitted to do Birkas Kohanim, how much more so someone who's fighting a legitimate war. He's not even talking about Israel. He's just talking about someone who's fighting in a war.
Who said he can do Birkas Kohanim if he kills the guy?
Either the Pri Chadash or the Pri Magan. He's quoting from someone, and the Mishnah Brura seems to go with this psak as well. So he's assuming.
What reason did I give?
Because he did it under duress.
Oh, okay.
So if you do it under duress, you're not labeled a murderer. You're not labeled a rotzeach.
Okay.
So Moshe says in a case where you did the wrong thing under duress, it's considered okay. So certainly we did the right thing under duress. Certainly it doesn't disqualify you from Birkas Kohanim. And that's the psak of Moshe. Even a Kohen Shaharag can go ahead and continue doing Birkas Kohanim. That's the opinion of Rav Moshe Feinstein. The Sitz Eliezer, Rabbi Eliezer Waldenberg, he has a different opinion. He says he was the rabbi of the big hospital in Eretz Israel, the Hadassah. He was in charge of medical ethics there. So he gives a different reason. He says that even though killing a non-Jew, you considered a murderer, you considered a rotzeach, and in a certain way it's even worse because there's an element of achil Hashem involved, there's an element of desecrating God's name. Nevertheless, when it comes to the prohibition of a Kohen Shaharag, the verse we learn it out from is talking about a Jew killing another Jew. And therefore the Tzitz Eliezer says regarding this special halacha of Birkas Kohanim, you're only disqualified if you kill another Jew.
Yeah.
But if you kill a guy, so then even though it's usher and you can't do it ordinarily, but it wouldn't puzzle you from Birkas Kohanim. And therefore that's the heter of the Tzitz Eliezer. If you kill a guy, you can continue doing Birkas Kohanim. If you kill a Jew, you can't. Rav Moshe is much more broad. Rav Moshe doesn't make a difference who you kill. Since you did it under duress, it's okay. And the third opinion is the opinion of Chacham Avadja. Avadja Yosef.
Sardis coming in.
Avadja Yosef says as follows. He says, Avadja Yosef says that since we're involved in a mitzvah, that the person fighting the war, we're assuming it's a legitimate war, and certainly if he's fighting the war in Eretz Israel, protecting other Jews, he's involved in, I don't mean it's a mechemes mitzvah, it's a mitzvah what he's doing. So Rav Adya says if you're doing it for the sake of a mitzvah, that doesn't disqualify you from Birkas Kohanim. Where does Chacham Avadja know this from? That if you're involved in a mitzvah, it doesn't disqualify you from Birkas Kohanim. So he quotes from the Shulchan Aruch. Whoever follows the Shulchan Aruch, he quotes in the Shulchan Aruch, a Kohen who is a Mohel, a Kohen who is a Mohel, and let's say the child he circumcised died, the baby that you were.
Well, it could be a doctor anyway.
But he's going to be a Mohel.
Yeah, but I'm saying he wouldn't. Why? I mean, if it's the same way, doctor operates on somebody, he dies. It's not his. He's trying to get him better.
No, I'm not saying it's not the fact that he died the problem. The question is the fact that he killed them.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Right. So it's the same thing. If a Kohen doctor, yeah.
He'd kill him the same way as a mile. If the kid dies.
Exactly, that'd be the same.
That's not his purpose.
Exactly, that'd be the same question. So it would be the same answer. The Shulchan Aruch says it's okay, and because he's doing a dvar mitzvah, so it should apply for a doctor as well. In fact, there's a famous Maisa with, I think it was.
The only problem is, what does the Kohen do with a mace?
Yeah, that's a separate issue. But there's a Maisa. One of the Gedolim, he was a big Kanai, I forget his name. So I guess he was very sick, and and the doctor told him he's going to die in another week or something. Okay, so that was it. He got better. About like 3 months later,
He went to see the doctor.
the
doctor was dead.
He's walking down the street and he sees the doctor. The doctor said, what happened? He said,
The guy said, you're wrong.
That's what the guy said. The doctor, he says, he said you should make the bracha Machaya Hamesim or something. He says, the doctor's supposed to be Rofeh Cholim. A doctor's job isn't to tell somebody he's going to die. His job is supposed to heal them. But either way, the point being is he got better. So the Shulchan Aruch writes that a Kohen Moel who kills, he could go ahead and do Birkas Kohanim. So, and the post can bring 3 reasons why. Number 1, it's a mitzvah. Secondly, maybe the child was still a nefa, it wasn't 30 days yet, so it wasn't a viable. It might have died anyway. And thirdly, maybe the baby died for some other reason, because the baby at that age, he's very young, so maybe he died for another reason. So based on those 3 reasons, the Shulchan Aruch is lenient. So Avad Yosef, so too, a Kohen who's fighting in the war, he definitely has at least the Dvar Mitzvah part, and therefore Avad Yosef is lenient. So we have Rav Moshe, so we all have Rav Moshe, Sitz Eliezer, and Avad all being lenient. A Kohen who kills in battle, however, for different reasons. Rav Moshe because you're an onus, Sitz Eliezer because you're killing a guy, and Avad Yosef because you're doing a mitzvah. However, Rav Soloveitchik, the one from Boston,
not the real brisker.
He's a minority view. He says it's a problem. A Kohen Shaharag is disqualified from Birkas Kohen. He doesn't go for any of these heterim.
If you're in Boston, you can't do it.
And what's his source? That a Kohen Shaharag, because he said, number one, we see by David HaMelech, he was involved in the biggest mitzvah, building a Beis HaMikdash, or he wanted to. He was involved in fighting wars for the sake of a mitzvah, and yet he wasn't allowed to build the Beis HaMikdash. So even if you're doing a mitzvah, it doesn't make a difference. And perhaps the source of Rav Soloveitchik is the Zohar in this week's Parsha, Parshas Pinchas. What does the Torah tell us? That Pinchas was given the Brisi Kuhunas Olam. He was made a Kohen. So we all know the old joke, if your father's a Kohen, you're a Kohen. So what do you mean made him a Kohen? So some say he wasn't a Kohen, but he became a Kohen because he wasn't made originally. But others say he was always a Kohen. And the Zohar says, what's the pshat? He was a Kohen, but since he killed Zimri, he became disqualified for the Kahuna. And it was only because of the special Brisi Kunas Olam he was able to come back in. So the Zohar writes that if not for the special bracha, the fact that Pinchas killed Zimri would have disqualified him in battle, even though he's doing a mitzvah.
Wait a minute.
Kana'im Poginbo.
Wait a minute, though. When you say he's a Kohen, that you say that in the beginning you said that he was qualified from blessing the people. And now you're saying he's qualified for getting an aliyah. He's not a Kohen.
No,
he can't get Kohen.
No, I think.
Like a chalel,
No, I'm not saying. I'm saying he's disqualified from doing the Birkas Kohanim and doing the Avod in the Beis HaMikdash. He's still a Kohen for an aliyah.
Okay.
He doesn't lose the status of a Kohen.
Okay.
So thanks for clarifying that.
Don't give me any.
So they point out to Rav Soloveitchik is very machmir. This is quoted in Rav Hershel Schachter's Sefer Nefesh Harav, where he says he heard from the Rav that he's machmir on this issue. Someone mentioned this.
You don't pay any attention to the Rav anyway.
Apparently, tcheles. So what happens is, so someone mentioned this to Rav Aaron Lichtenstein. They asked him, did you hear the Rav ever say that a Kohen who kills in battle cannot do Birkas Kohanim? Rav Aaron said, no, I never heard it. And in fact, that's Rav Aaron Lichtenstein's practice in Gush. He permits a Kohen who kills in battle to come back and do Birkas Kohanim. And Rav Sternbuch quotes the minig in England the same way, that even when Kohanim killed other Jews, the practice was the Kohen came back and do Birkas Kohanim. So Rav Soloveitchik seems to be a minority view, and the accepted opinion seems to be with everyone else, with Rav Moshe that sits Eliezer, a Chacham Avadja, that a Kohen who kills in battle is permitted to do Birkas Kohanim.